Hello there and welcome back to another Master Mouldie video where today we'll finally be taking a look. It feels like it's been ages, probably only been a day or two for you. Finally we'll be upgrading the Clone Shock Trooper Mech that's coming out January 1st, still weeks away. Hopefully by now we've actually seen this on the LEGO site. There's still nothing as of recording this, but if you do want to check it out and there's no news anywhere else, check out the previous video on the channel. The first improvement we're going to make isn't to the mech at all, but is rather to the minifigure and accessory that comes with the set. And there's a few things that I want to change about them, but it doesn't matter what we're doing to it, this only counts as one upgrade. So there's another 4 on their way after this. For each of these upgrades, I have prepared a little bag of parts. So let's introduce the brand new Shock Trooper. The one in the set is, as you'd expect, the typical Shock Trooper. We've got the Clone Trooper head. Nothing special about that. The torso we've seen in quite a few sets now. And the legs, which, well, they're going to be the first thing we improve. Putting the blaster to the side, you can see that the legs on my Shock Trooper here, covering up the arms, don't want to spoil that, have been not printed. These aren't actually door molded legs. These are meant to be fairly cheap and affordable upgrades that you can do at home. I'm not getting you to spend 40 quid on a minifigure. Please don't do it for a clone. It's not worth it when you can take a paintbrush and a little bit of red paint to get this dual molded effect on your regular Clone Trooper, which is a couple of quid. This is still the same minifigure that you can see from the set. I've just added a bit of paint to cover in the legs, and doesn't that just look 100 million times better? I can't put it into words. You can see it on screen. Red boots are a must for Clone Troopers. Not all of them, for the Coruscant Guard, Shock Troopers, and likewise with Fox. We should have got red molded shorts. That piece exists. We've seen that on the odd Santa Claus even. On the Builder mini stations in LEGO stores have had the red shorts with the white boots. White shorts, red boots. So much better. The only white printed they'd have to do on the legs is the bottom right there. Let's have a zoom on that. The bottom of the knee pad would be overhanging, and that would be it. Also on the side of the minifigure, almost forgot to point out the printed arms. Take a look at that. We've already said that printed arms are not necessary on Clone Troopers, but if you take a bit of the same color red paint and dabble that on the shoulder, similar to the new Star Trek minifigures, your minifigure is going to stand out in a crowd, that's for sure. Simple upgrades, but some of them can be brick built rather than painted. Stick around because tomorrow we'll be taking a look at the LEGO Star Wars magazine, which has one version of Blaster with the hill and the other clones that we're now confirmed to be getting in 2026. In the official set, we get a candlestick. I love this element for the blasters. It's not even too creative of a part use, but it fits so nicely around the tip of a blaster. Shame we can't get rid of that top bit to make it more accurate to the scene, but LEGO are working with what they've got here. So am I in creating this absolute monster of a blaster. Let's get all of these parts off. This camera piece, not the candle piece, this camera element here, put into the tip of the blaster, just already adds so much size, and then to level it out, I flipped it upside down, added a few radiator grills on it, a nozzle so that it could actually fire, and then finally finishing it up with an ice skate flipped upside down for the little bit of the blaster that sticks out. It's very fiddly. I'd recommend doing this before the radiator grills, but I love the effect of the, I guess it's where the weapon cools down as it is a laser gun. I just love this blaster. Comparing it to the one that LEGO have got, I think this makes sense as the very first upgrade. Not all the upgrades are for the minifigures. You got 2 for free. Legs, arms, and the blaster, all in the first upgrade. But you know if you've seen me talk about the mech, I wasn't the happiest with the red color scheme. I would have loved for this to have been white and dark red to match up to some of the other Republic ships that we've got. And that's going to be upgrade number 2. Here's the bag of elements that you need to do. So actually, technically this bag of elements isn't all that's needed because I have included duplicates of the feet. Sometimes it's just easier to pop off the feet and give it new ones. And these aren't even the feet that we're going to be using by the end of the video. The feet are going to be upgraded once more. But now let's upgrade the red to dark red. These dark red Lego elements should all be available quite readily wherever you buy your Lego, excluding, once again, those shoulder pads. I feel like I get away with this because the original bright red ones are exclusive to the set, but to get the dark red ones you can either paint over the original ones in the set or do like I did and pick up some grey ones. Whichever the cheapest colour is, grab those, paint them, and they'll look just as good. And there we go. How about that? Now that we've got our dark red mech, we're kind of back to where we began. I guess I never built the blaster the first time I put this together, but I do think it looks quite, it's toned down a bit. It doesn't stand out as much on your displays. This would fit nicer with the darks of Vader, of Maul. Even Luke Skywalker has that dark red in the mech. So this fits more with the rest of the mechs, even if you aren't. I'm going to take the painted and printed trooper. No going back now. Even if you're not trying to amass an army of clone troopers, this would look probably better on your display. Can we get this blaster? If we pull it out a little bit, maybe we can even get this on the back of the mech. Yes, there we go. It still fits. That is amazing. Sorry, Trooper, you've got to go. There's a lot of sets that this simple recolor would work for, and that'd be it. We've got so many more upgrades to get through, but the Coruscant Guard gunship is one of them. That build is, it's got to be the best gunship build that LEGO have ever made. And you can recolor it in white and dark red, as we can here. Or what you could do to this mech is recolor it dark red and then white on the outside, but you'd have to paint so many more elements because barely any of these white parts actually exist in dark red. The arms don't. A lot of these pieces are a lot more expensive if they even do exist, and I'd recommend doing it this way around. But it's funny that I mentioned the gunship, because the next upgrade we're making to this mech is keeping with the feet, and it's another gunship themed upgrade. I think we're starting to see a pattern here. Here we've got some bright lime green feet, or as my partner would say, some bogey green feet. And I still can't believe that 2022 advent calendar has the exclusive lime green clip from the micro build of the gunship. We've started off with red feet, these red feet just in shot. We've gone dark red, and now we're switching it up to green. I think this is one of the most out there upgrades I've ever made to a set, but stick with me here and it will definitely be worth it in the end. With the lime green feet on, this is to represent the nose of the gunship, and though it isn't a transformer mech, I do really want them to just come together and overall form a gunship. That would be awesome. But we're getting those colours in there for ships, for similar to the Darth Vader mech with the dark red. There's no dark red on Darth Vader. Luke's X-Wing mech, despite Luke's pilot jumpsuit being orange, was mostly white with dark... It was X-Wing themed. It was like his X-Wing that did have a bit of dark red. And we also saw that very bright light yellow. I think it's bright light yellow. The colour that was used on the back of the legs and in the arms. This is the lime green of the gunship compared to like the bright light yellow of the X-Wing. I think this adds so much. It looks like we've got some snazzy trainers on this mech. And also, I almost forgot, I've made a big improvement to these feet compared to both the recolors of the Clone Trooper Mech, because a lot of the other mechs are built fairly similar, especially when it comes to the feet. We've got our amalgamation mech that I will be adding the torso of the original Shock Trooper Mech, and maybe stealing a foot to replace Vader's, because Vader's is built kind of similar to this. I think I've stolen those 1x5s for other builds. We've got 1x5s in dark bluish grey on the Shock Trooper Mech, on the original ones, not on these ones, because I've instead gone with the design of Darth Maul's foot, which uses a 1x2 rounded black piece, which is present in this mech, and then a 2x4. In fact, I've used 1x4s, and the pure reason behind this is so that we can get some flame elements under the feet. I know what you're thinking. Why do we want to set fire to the feet of the Clone Trooper? Is this Mustafar 2.0? And no, we will not actually be setting alight any Lego bricks again. I've learned my lesson. But what I will be doing is grabbing some of these flame elements, because the mech itself will have superpowers compared to the regular clone. The Clone Trooper is not going to be able to blast rockets from its feet, but the mech will have that ability. There will be some sort of rocket propulsion in the bottom of the feet that will allow this mech likely to soar up above the battlefield and maybe even take on some Viper droids mano a mano. Look at that. We can get some Even if it's just in one boot, maybe it's like going for a upper kick and we're trying to balance this out. Let's see if we can actually get this to balance itself, stand up, perfect. For those of you looking top down, this is what it looks like. We've got an uppercut kick with the flame elements pushing that boot up, maybe into the face of a B1 battle droid mech, which would go great alongside this. But I just think the green shoes work so well for this sort of mech build. This is what I meant when I said the other day that LEGO can loosen up a bit when it comes to Star Wars sets. It doesn't all have to be so monochrome, serious. We can get fun little aspects like rocket boots in a mech. And personally, that would make me want to pick this one up pretty early. Because I've already built it and I'm already upgrading it weeks before, months technically, before it comes out on store shelves, I don't think I'll be picking this one up in store. But I will be revisiting it in the new year because I think it would be awesome to have a bunch of these follow in a Commander Fox mech and try to make a mech-sized battle using LEGO Star Wars mechs. Upgrade number 4 is in this bag. It looks like an amalgamation of very odd pieces, but once I start building it, let's see how long it takes you to guess. For those of you that do want to build this, we're going to take a round 2x2 brick and one of these long cone elements in white, although you could swap the white for dark red and the dark red for white, which would also work depending on the parts you have in your inventory. Maybe mix it up a little bit. Add a black cone on top. That will be the very frontmost section of our build. Some of you have already got it. Some of you know what I'm building. A snot brick on the inside to build our body here. And next to the snot brick, we're going to add a 1x2 plate. Now you're going to want to build this in the opposite direction for both of your builds. So let me just check which way I should be building this. Then a ball joint, one of the grasp elements, one of the holders with a bracket, closing that off on the other side. And then repeating the snot brick to finish off our 1x4. We want the studs on top. This could be a tile, this can be a plate, same as on top. These are just finishing details here. And if you do go with any 1x4s, line it up so the gap of the 2x2 on both sides is with the gap of the rest of the build. I think that gives it a bit, you're working with the LEGO restrictions, but you're making them fit into the build at the same time. This 2x2 is a conical piece, but we're finishing it off with a stud with a hole in it, just like so. And now we want to add a few parts to the back of the mech. So I'm pulling off the entire back with the clip that holds the blaster, though you can restore that later on once this is done. And as this specific one is the left shoulder, we're going to put the other ball joint connector, 1x2 in a different orientation to that usually comes with these mechs, up on the left shoulder and secure that in place with any parts you've got. I've used a 2x2 anti-slope, and then we can equip this over the left shoulder and make an identical mirror flip version of the build to go over the right shoulder, left, right, I've got that right. And there we have two massive cannons that look like they're from the gunship. These are gunship cannons. Now you can kind of see what I was going for. I'm going to remove the blaster just to line it up with the gunship ratio. And we've got gunship turrets. We've got arms which are almost wing-like, and then right at the front we've got our bright green boots. You can kind of see the shape of the gunship taking form with the gunship flying through. Maybe we need to set up this clone. There you go. Look how much better that is. This is a set that I would love to pick up just for my display, and I probably will be keeping this in the background over Christmas. But we are still not done yet. There is one more change that I want to make to this mech, and it's an upgrade as old as LEGO Star Wars mechs. I was collecting mechs before LEGO Star Wars adopted them into the IP, and Marvel had a few different ball joint elements. They're not as good as these ones, I have to say. The old 2015 Marvel mechs are nowhere near the quality of these ones. They're much more rigid as well, aren't going to collapse under too much pressure, but they had posable limbs. And when I was introduced to LEGO Star Wars mechs, I made the upgrade almost instantly 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when we looked at the Stormtrooper mech. Or was it the Darth Vader mech that I did first? One of those mechs. We picked up the Boba one first. It might have even been that one. I added limbs to the arms. We decided that legs were not possible. We tried it a million different ways, actually about 5 different ways, and the legs succumbed to the pressure. So 2 ball joints is the most you're going to get without ruining any of that. But even with the bigger blasters and lightsabers, you could add an elbow hinge, and that is upgrade number 5. For the last time, we're going to be pulling apart this mech, and I'm just going to take both of the arms off and reveal it right at the end. It's a very similar build to what we did back with Vader and the Stormtrooper, changed a little bit to work with these arms above all else, but these are all the elements you're going to need, come on, to add an elbow into your Trooper mech, and I think this should also work for the X-Wing one, as they're the 2 with the white arms. Let's go without the blaster first. Taking these off, you can normally grab the thumb and just push the whole, oh, maybe it was the fingers. See, I'm forgetting the technique for taking off the hands. You grab the fingers and the whole hand should pop off. And likewise, if you grab a few of the bottom plates on the upper arm, we're 0 for 2. But now we've got the sections removed, we're replacing this joint here. The hinge will go on the bottom because that's hidden out of the way, and then we can get our elements on top that will size up to the exact same 45-degree angle that we've got on top. Check that out, we could stud them down if we wanted to. The perfect 45-degree angle with the hinge on the back. We need to see the hinge in more Lego sets. And then to fill out the trays, 2 1x2 corner plates. I started off with the 1x, and I don't know where that was going. 1x3 corner plates are they? Because they're a 1x3 that's bent. Let's not confuse ourselves. Quick reminder before we begin that if you have built an arm this way round, then the other arm should be a mirror reflection of it. Here's one that I put together just before recording this video. You can see how it's like looking in a mirror. They're the same, but slightly different. And it's actually the mirror reflection that we want for this arm, because the black 45-degree wedge will line up to the white one, and then we've got our 2x3 plate of the hand. And there we are. As easy as that. We've got an arm that now has a joint. Honestly, I don't really know why Lego made this piece a piece. We've seen it used on the designer set that was the Spaceman DJ, which was really fun to build. And quickly, whilst I mention that, I think this year's is a Santa-themed one. I'm not building a winter village, despite all the Christmas sets behind me. It's tempting, but I won't be building that designer set, but you can find images of that everywhere. And now I can show you just how quickly I can do this other arm, pop off the blaster, pop off the hand. You didn't see that. Hand on, arm off. Perfect. At least one of them went the way I was hoping. And then blaster reattached to the front, making sure that connection lines up with the thumb, and they're ready to go back on the mech. I haven't even thought about upgrading my amalgamation mech using these hinge joints, but it adds so much definition, similar to the rockets we've got on top. The bright coloured boots breaking up this build, and now the fact that our mech can have a straight arm to the side, and even just like lining up the blaster. It seems more natural to have a mech that can bend its arms than one that locks them in at that 45-degree angle. It's another play feature, and even with a blaster up in the arm, it does not make it any more fragile than the original mech was. So let me know what you think of the 5 upgrades to this mech. Would you rather pick up this set or the one that Lego is selling? Because I do think that mechs have the potential to be this really great run of sets, almost akin to the Microfighter, which we all do love. It's a great run of sets to get minifigures for cheap and to pick up alongside the expensive Juggernaut. Even on sale, that's going to hurt the bank. Sets like this help break it up and make those bigger sets much more worth the money, at least to me. I had so much fun building this mech, and I really don't want to break it down, but there's going to be a day where I'm going to want to build this into something else. Until then, check out the videos on screen now, and thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Don't forget to like on your way out, and may the bricks be with you always.